Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1971 Chevy Impala. Up front is a 7.4 liter V8, and down below is a 3-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving the Chevy Impala for two big reasons. First of all, I love driving old vintage cars like this, and the Impala is so iconic. This is one of the biggest cars that Chevy ever built, and this is the era of big cars. But the second reason is that this is the first year of the 5th generation Impala. It started in 1971, and while this got the big 454 big block, by the time this generation was over, it had shrunk, it had lost a lot of horsepower, and so this was targeted by the malaise era, and we'll talk a lot about that a little bit later on. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 454 under the hood. Now, I always say the engines in liters of displacement at the beginning of the video to compare them to modern engines. This is bigger than anything we get in a modern vehicle. But this was known as the 454. Now, I have to be truthful. This Impala didn't originally come with the 454. This actually came with the 400 V8, but this was swapped to a period correct 454 at some point in its life. It made about 365 horsepower when it was new, and it's quite the hoot. It's not the fastest thing in the world, and I think that 3-speed really hurts it, but you just get this brutal, just like unstoppable freight train force under your right foot. It feels like nothing could stop it when it does that. It's not a Japanese bullet train. This is a homegrown American thoroughbred. This will crash through a brick wall without a hesitation, and that's what the 454 was known for. That was the big guns. That was the protein powder that we were craving. And that's what this Impala got. That helped make this generation so great. And by the end of the 70s, that was gone. We'll talk about that with the final thoughts. Like I said, Bear Do It is a 3-speed automatic. Now, if you got the inline 6 or small Chevy 350, you could get a 2-speed Power Glide. This got the upgraded 3-speed, as well as you could, of course, get a manual transmission as an option. Or really, that was the standard one. The automatic was the option, but you get what I mean. Last but not least, of course, it is rear-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the 1971 Impala with the 454? It's a little floaty. It's a little up there. It's a big car, and you feel that. But then again, you have the overboosted power steering, so it's super light to turn. With barely the breadth of a pinky finger, you can turn this massive land yacht. That is so synonymous with how 70s cars feel, this overboosted, overpowered power steering that I actually quite like. Other than that, visibility's great. You don't really have big A-pillars or anything like that. It's just an enormous loaf on the road. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 2 gauges. Off to the left is my fuel, and in the center is my speedometer. That's it. We do get a clock off to the right, except this actually didn't come with the hands option, so we just get the lines and not the actual clock itself. On the steering wheel, don't have anything. To the left, we do have our washers and wipers, we have our lights, as well as our climate controls. Very synonymous with the 70s and the 60s, to be fair, to have the climate controls away from the passenger. The passenger got no amenities or no control over anything in the 60s and 70s. We also do have a climate vent, and moving on to the door, we have our crank for the manual window and the nice Impala badging, which I absolutely adore. Moving into the center, we do get a climate vent as well as the original Jensen radio. Absolutely love to see this. But again, it's sort of blocked off from where the passenger can reach. They don't get much. Over there, we do have an Impala badge and some venting, but that's literally it. We don't get a center console, meaning we don't have any cup holders, so by default it fails the big friggin' bottle test. And we get a bench seat with lap belts. Now, I always try to make an effort to show the lap belts in cars like this because so many people grew up with them. I'm sure so many people have been branded by them in the sun, especially down here in the Georgia heat. But it's a nice, comfy, cozy bench seat, and I quite like that. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, getting in the back of the 71 Impala Coupe. We've done a 70 Impala on the channel before, as my GoPro is severely crooked. We've done a 70 Impala before, but that was the 4-door. This, obviously way less space than the 4-door, but it's still cushy, it's still comfortable, it's still a good place to be. It's the back of a 70s car. I mean, I wasn't alive in this era, but I almost feel like I was. Like, I have like this sort of memory back here. I know these are the cars that my dad and mom grew up in, and it's just really, really cool to be back here. It does have lap belts, but it wasn't legally required that you had to wear them, you know, things like that. Man, a simpler time, but simpler is better. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of this big boy. Now, in this era, as we know, 2 separate keys, round key for the trunk, square key for the ignition. And there we go. Look at that. Look at how much real estate you get in the back of a Chevy Impala from 1971. Absolutely love all of that space. Really, really cool stuff. Obviously, this was a signature of the era, how big the trunks were. You could probably fit the family dog and a couple siblings back here. I'm sure many of you have. Very, very cool. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this looks killer. It absolutely looks the part. It's so early 70s. It's so brutal. It's so in your face. I love the body lines. I just love how the Impala looks. It looks menacing, it looks great without being overstyled. I think that's something that we really suffer from now, is a lot of cars are so overstyled. They try really hard to have these complex lines and designs, where this is relatively easy for a 5-year-old to draw on a pad of paper, but that doesn't mean that it looks bad. But with that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the 1971 Chevy Impala? It's great. I absolutely love this experience. Is it super fast comparatively to modern vehicles? No. But at its time, this was quite the brute. I love the style of it. I love the feeling of it. I love being in 70s cars. And this is kind of the final breath of the Impala where it was unrestricted. So let's talk about that. In 1973, the world, but mostly the US, but the world experienced the oil crisis. Basically, because of politics and whatnot, oil prices went up through the roof and emission standards started. They cracked down, they required catalytic converters by 1975. Big V8s were killed in favor of smaller engines. The heavy, boaty cars of the 60s were now extinct. But that was 1973. This is 1971. This is still when Chevy was allowed to run free with their engines, allowed to make this as inefficient and big and boaty as they so well pleased. And they did. And this is one of the biggest engines that they ever produced. What it feels to be driving this is similar to when you're running in a field. You're free, you're out in the open, you can do and go wherever you want. But on the horizon, there's a line of trees. And they're getting closer. They're there. But they're not impeding your free spirit at the moment, but they will. And eventually they did. And boy, did we get stuck in the woods in the late 70s and early 80s. Big V8s like this were not only gone, but whatever ones were left were making half the horsepower because of the emissions requirements. And so driving this, you feel unrestricted. You feel as though you can conquer the world because you don't have anything to worry about. This car doesn't need to ask for permission, it doesn't need to follow guidelines or even a simple rubric. And I think that's why early 70s cars, late 60s, early 70s cars have this special feeling about them. They feel free, they feel unrestrained. And now the reality of it is that this car vapor locks. This car doesn't run great because of the ethanol in our fuel, but it's still here. It's still showing us that free spirit. And that's something that I'll take home with me. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia for this video, but when I fly back home to Chicago in a few days' time, I'm going to remember this Impala, and I'm going to remember how free and open it was. And that is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Tristan for letting me borrow his Impala for today's video. What an absolutely wonderful vehicle. This is his daily driver, and I think that that is the coolest thing in the world. Tristan has been absolutely wonderful to work with, and I am very, very appreciative. But I appreciate you guys watching the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.